John. Of course, chapter 1, because there's only one chapter, right? All right. Okay, so 3 John. John, again, here is writing to a particular person. This is a personal missive to, and we'll do like we did last week. We'll go through this and look at and see if we can't glean a few things. There's some really good lessons. You know, you think, oh, man, what can a one-chapter book do for us? But there's a great deal to learn here. John has a great deal to say to beloved Gaius. So we're going to talk about that now. And he begins this greeting, he says, the elder to the beloved Gaius, whom I love in truth. So John here is referring to himself as who? He is a what? He is a, thank you. All right. Everybody awake? Raise your hand if you're awake. All right. I'm going to ask some questions. Let me hear you. Okay. It says, the elder to the beloved Gaius, whom I love in truth. Now this goes back to the book of 2 John, right? He talked about the concept of loving in truth. And the idea of loving in truth means there's a particular type of love that we have for brethren that we don't have for the rest of society, right? We love our brethren differently than we love the world. And understand, this is not a foreign concept. The idea of the love that I have for my brother in Christ is different than the love I have for, the feelings that I may have for somebody else that I know. All right. But he loves him in truth, and that is the truth that comes through being a member of the Lord's body, from being a brother or a sister in Christ. And this is how he refers to him. And once again, John using that word love. John's viewpoint is this. We said that this morning. Remember the 2 commandments. What are the 2 commandments? The 2 upon which all of the rest of the old law hinged were love the Lord thy God and love thy neighbor as yourself. Okay, John took this to heart. He was adamant about this. And I've said before, it is hearsay, but it was often said that John died of what we would call old age. He died a natural death, and as he was aged towards the end of his life, that John would say he would want to say something in the worship service. And of course, when one of the apostles speaks, everybody else just shut their mouth and listen. And John, what he said more than anything else was love each other, love each other. And that was his thing over and over again. Some people might call that a mantra. It's not a mantra. What he meant was, he was serious what he meant. He would repeat it over and over again, love one another, love one another. And he would say that over and over again in the worship. That's how serious he took it. And truthfully, that's how serious we should take it. Love should be at the heart of everything that we do. Love for God and love for neighbor. That's why we do what we do, just because we love one another. Right? He says here, the elder to the beloved Gaius. So he's writing to this brother in Christ, whom he loves dearly, and he has a few things to say to him. Here he says, and look at what he says: Beloved, I pray that all may go well with you, and that you may be in good health, as it goes well with your soul. Now, there's a couple ways that we can look at this. Could be that Gaius may have been in poor health. Maybe he had some issues with his health. And John here is offering up a sincere prayer that while Gaius' soul is certainly in good health, his soul is in good health. He stands justified before God. He is a faithful brother. He is praying that as your soul is well, as you're spiritually healthy, I pray for good health, physical health for you as well. It may mean that he's just simply wanting, as kind of like, I want God to bless you physically the way that He's blessed you spiritually. My health is in good. My health, I believe, my soul is in good health. I pray that the Lord would bless me physically the way that He's blessed me spiritually. But at the end of it, the thing that should be at the forefront, the thing that we should be the most concerned about is what? Our physical health or our spiritual health? Always spiritual health. If we have spiritual health, the rest, whatever happens to us physically, is of really no consequence. Now, nobody says, hey, I want to be sick. Hey, I want to have issues. Hey, I want to be poor. Hey, I want to have all of these issues. But when we are spiritually healthy, we can look at things the way that they truly are. And when we're not spiritually healthy, what do we want to do? We want to start looking for the physical. We start glomming onto the physical. We want that more than anything else. But boy, when we're spiritually healthy, we know that while our soul is if our soul is in good health, nothing of this world is of any major importance to it. Absolutely. This carnal world is a temporary thing. Our physical body is a temporary thing. The only thing that's important, the only thing that's eternal is our soul, and that's the thing that's going to live on after our physical body is gone. So what do we want to be in good health? Our soul. If our soul's not healthy, folks, we're in trouble. Because not only to have a sick soul, we have a sick body, because it's going to go to the way of all flesh. Okay. All right. So here John is offering up this desire, and I would imagine, wouldn't you think that if he's making this known to Gaius, he's made it known to God? That John almost assuredly has gone to God on Gaius' behalf, and he's making sure that Gaius knows how he feels about him and what he desires for him. All right. It says verse 3, "For I rejoiced greatly when the brothers came and testified to your truth." I love this because it shows that what should we desire? What should we desire from our brethren? We want a good report, don't we? We want a good report. Isn't it? Have you ever felt completed when you've been, say for example, you've been in the assembly, and someone comes in and they know someone that you know, you have a friend in common, and you inquire about them, and that person said, "Oh, you didn't know. They're now a deacon, or they're now an elder, or he started preaching, or she's done this, she's actively working in and they bring a good report of someone that you know in common. There's something that there's this feeling of tranquility, I think, that washes over you when you realize that the person that you care about you receive a good report from them. And this is what John is receiving from the brethren who can testify as to Gaius being in the truth. They're coming to him and they are, I wouldn't go so far as to say they're confessing him, but they are bringing good reports in regards to Gaius. So when he writes to them, he knows. How does he know that Gaius is his soul is healthy? Because the brethren are bringing a report to that effect. He's busy, he's active, he's faithful, he's strong, he's encouraging, he's working in the kingdom. And John is saying this. He says, "I rejoiced greatly when the brethren came and testified to your truth, that you abide in the truth." And this, the idea of walking here is not to get into a grammar lesson, it's present, active, indicative. And if you read the Greek, present, active, indicative means it's something that is taking place then, and it is an ongoing thing. It's not something that's happened at one time and has ceased. It's not something that's going to happen in the future. It's something that is ongoing. It's been going on, and it's continuing to go on, and as far as we know, it will continue to go on. So when these brethren are coming and they're testifying to John that Gaius is walking in the truth, it means that it is something that he is constantly involved in. He's actively engaging in it. He's actively walking in the truth. What better report can people get about us than for the brethren to find out that we are actively participating and walking in the truth? I can think of no greater report. I can think of no greater thing that someone can say about me than the fact that I am actively continuing in my Christian walk. That's what we should all strive for. Here's where Gaius is. The brethren are coming and they're bringing this report to John. He said, "I have no greater joy than to hear that my children are walking in the truth." Here's John getting back into that concept of here's this a man who's been in the faith a long time. He has seen a lot of things go on. He has seen brethren who have become New Testament Christians and have gone back into the world. He has preached to people who have refused to hear the word at all. He's talked to people who are actively fighting and actively striving against God. So what does he want to hear? Here's this older man, well-established apostle of the Lord Jesus Christ, an elder in the Lord's church, and he regards these people as who? His children in the faith. You know, Paul talked about Timothy being his son in the faith. Here's John. Here's Gaius, his children, his child in the faith. It could have been that Gaius is someone that he himself personally evangelized to and personally converted. That could be very well it. And he views them as, he in a very figurative sense, he gave birth to him in the faith. We don't know that, but we can certainly see this as John's viewpoint in regards to Gaius. But he cares for him a great deal. And I'll tell you, you take a great deal of interest in those that you personally have converted, that you've spoken to, that they have come to the Lord's body because of the work that you've done. And it could be that this is the case with John. We don't know this, but I certainly can see this as being certainly a possibility. But he refers to him as my child. He refers to the children of the faith these New Testament Christians as his children. And he says, no greater joy than I can have than to hear my children are walking in the truth. And folks, even as parents, is there something, boy, is it not nice to know that your children are walking in the truth? That's what you want more than anything else. And it doesn't always happen. And I got a sermon I'm going to preach on that to kind of put some people's mind at ease in regards to that. But in any case, all right. So here this is the greeting that he's giving to Gaius, this beloved son in the church. Verse 5, he gets into a situation. He's going to talk about some things that are happening where Gaius is and how he's going to have to deal with some of these things. But he also tells us how we're supposed to deal with these things, what we're supposed to do. He says, Beloved, it is a faithful thing you do in all of your efforts for these brothers, strangers as they are, who testified to your love before the church. Now, we could safely take these brothers, strangers as they are, who testified to your love, as the same ones who brought the report back to John in regards to his faithfulness. Okay? So who are these people? He says they are brethren. They're certainly brethren, but they are strangers. So these were people that Gaius may not have known before they came to the assembly. Okay? They were brothers in Christ. They presented themselves as brothers in Christ. They affirmed themselves as brothers in Christ. Back in these days, it would have been extremely commonplace, if not almost essential, for people as they would travel, as they would go to a city or a place, a settlement, a development, as they would go and they would present themselves to the assembly, that they would bring letters of recommendation from where they came, from brethren who may have been more well-known. And we'll see another brother who was well-known, and this could have been one of those people who would sign a letter saying, this is a brother, this is someone who is faithful, this is someone who is sound in the faith and sound in the doctrine. You can receive him or her or them because I know where they stand. I know what they speak. They speak as of the oracles of God. You can trust what they have to say. Folks, I'm not saying that we necessarily have to institute something like this, but it surely would be a blessing to the brotherhood if we did something like this, because how many times have someone gone to a congregation, been a member of the Lord, at a congregation of the Lord's body, wreaked havoc at that Lord's body, and then proceeded to disappear into the woodwork, leave for a period of time, and then all of a sudden surface back at some other place, go into another congregation of the Lord's body, and proceed again to wreak havoc simply because no one knows where they came from, no one knows what they believe, no one knows anything about them. We have no idea where they came from. We have no idea anything about them. But in our desire to be inclusive and in our desire to show love and show affection towards people, we receive them in without having any understanding or knowledge about who they are and where they come from. But this was commonplace in the first century and even into the second century, where missionaries, where preachers who would travel, they would carry letters with them and from people who are well respected and known in the faith. You can trust this person. You can believe this person. We've heard them. We know them. We can vouch for them, so to speak. Okay? Mm-hmm. I think it would be. I think it would be smart if you were going to move, that you would do something like that for yourself. Look, where I go, I can. And it doesn't even necessarily have to be that. And I'm not saying to institute something like that, but the idea here is that we verify what we're being told. While we show love, we show compassion, we show hospitality. It does not mean that we necessarily can trust everything that a person says. I come from this place. Would we not call to that place to find out if what they're saying is true? We go to the Scriptures to determine if what they're saying is true. Why wouldn't we call and, hey, where did you come from before here? Where were you a member of where did you attend services? Where did you preach? Where did you do this? Where did you do this? But here's the problem. We're going to see this problem here in just a couple of seconds. But he says, it is a faithful thing you do in all of your efforts for these brethren. So as these brethren who were strangers to Gaius, he simply just did not know them. But what is it that he did for them? He said, it's a faithful thing you do in all of your efforts. What do you think it was that he was doing for these brethren that were coming in, that were strangers to him, but they were certainly brethren in the faith? What was he doing for them? He was showing hospitality. I dare say that Gaius was likely one of those people that while he was in the assembly, well, as he was part of that local congregation, if there were those who were coming into town or if they were coming into the city from outside, they were strangers but they were brethren, that he would be likely one who would open up his house to them. He would give them a place to stay. This was commonplace back then as well. You didn't go down, nowadays when a brother or a preacher comes in for a local gospel meeting, we put him up at a nice hotel, right? All right? Most of the time. Sometimes we invite him into our house. I always like that better. I want you to come stay at my place. That's a whole lot more hospitality than staying in a hotel. I'm not saying anything wrong with hotels, but isn't it nice to go to somebody's house and spend some time with them in fellowship? This was likely the kind of responsibility that Gaius had taken upon himself. He was showing hospitality to the saints. What is one of our commandments in the faith? To show hospitality to the saints. What? We bring them in. We feed them. We give them water. We give them a place to wash their feet. We give them a place to lay their head. We show kindness and we show hospitality to our brethren in Christ. But here's what's happening: is this is one of the ways in which they're confirming to John that he's walking in the truth. Because when we went to this city, he was the first one to greet us. He was the first one to open up his home to us. He was the first one to show hospitality to us. He is walking in the truth. He is a man to be commended for doing what he's doing. Once again, how do we want to be known? I want to be known as someone who shows hospitality to the saints. I love it because when we have visitors here, this morning we had a couple of visitors. This closing prayer, and all of a sudden everybody's over there surrounding them. Now they're not from this area. They're not going to stay in this area. They don't live in this area. They're not going to attend services with us. But they leave this place with people knowing, hey, that's a good group of folks. They showed hospitality. They were kind. They were decent. They were loving. Okay. Here he says in verse 6, you testified your love before the church as they've done. You will do well to send them on the journey in a manner worthy of God. Doing what? Giving them the provisions that they might need. They don't leave his house empty-handed. They don't leave without a Godspeed, a prayer on their behalf. I pray for your safety. I petition God that you arrive at your destination back safely again, and that you have minimal issues. It could be that he himself writes letters for these men as they've affirmed themselves to be members of the Lord's church in good. I hate to use that word, in good standing, but there's precedence for that. The idea that these are faithful members. I charge you when they come into your midst, you show them hospitality because they've been in my home. I've spoken with them. I know how they are. So he could be one that is writing those letters of recommendation from the congregation where Gaius finds himself. So he is actively involved in doing the work of the Lord. And here's John writing to him and commending him for all of these things. For they have gone out for the sake of the name, accepting nothing from the Gentiles. So this also tells us when the missionaries would go out and they would go into these cities and they would go out to speak the word, what were they taking with them? Were they accepting anything from the people they were going to speak to? I always got my attention. You ever watch those old shows where the guys would roll in and they would roll in with the tents and they set up the big revival, and at the end of the night, what do? They pass the plate. So basically, you're taking money from the people that you're preaching to, the lost. Here he said, no, we're not accepting. We're here to preach the gospel to them. We're not here for them to support our work. We're not here for them to support our job, to fund our missionary efforts. We're not taking anything from the Gentiles. So therefore, then what? In verse 8, therefore, if they're not taking anything from those that they've been sent to preach to, what should happen then? Then what? Verse 8, therefore, we ought to support people like this, these brethren who have gone out to do the work, that are not accepting support from the people they're preaching to. What do we ought to do? What ought we to do? We support them. That's the work for the church to do, not for the unsaved to support they're being preached to. That's something that the church is to support, whether as a group. Okay, now there are those who don't believe that should be done, that shouldn't come from the church treasury, but they have no problem with people individually. I'm not here to debate the two issues. That's not the point. The point is that the support is not to come from those that are being preached to. The support is to come from who? The Lord's body. If we're going to say, we can't just simply say, you're going to this place to preach the gospel. Well, Godspeed. Good luck. I pray for your safety, and I pray for your encouragement. I pray for your support. But then we do nothing of ourselves to help it out. That's not the way it's supposed to be. What do? We dig a little deeper. We do what's necessary. Sometimes it wasn't a matter of money. Sometimes it was a matter of provisions. It was a matter of having a place to stay. So they're not having to fend for themselves as they come in to do the work. It just depends on the circumstances that we find ourselves in. The point of it all is that Gaius is one that is doing all of these things. As these missionaries are coming in, as these people are coming in to preach the word to the Gentiles, and the Gentiles meaning the unsaved, those who were outside of the Lord's body, he was supporting them. He was giving them hospitality. He was giving them a place to stay. He was feeding them. Likely, helping them wash their clothes, helping them mend their garments, helping them do all of the things that are necessary so that they can devote themselves to the work of the Lord. He says, therefore, we ought to support people like these that we may be fellow workers for the truth. So what happens when a missionary goes overseas or goes to another state or goes to wherever and we support them, what are we? We're missionaries. We're just missionaries we're home missionaries. We're supporting them. I know people who say, "Listen, I'm the world's worst." They say, Moses has nothing on me. I can't speak for anything. But you let me know what's needed, and I'll make sure that it's there. Well, I appreciate folks like that. Well, I wish we had. You got enough of those folks, and enough people who physically go out and do the work. We can move the world. That's exactly what happened. Okay. All right. So we ought to support people like this. Don't just say, "Well, I hope everything goes well." We have to actually pitch in and do what's necessary in order for this to be accomplished. And here's what Gaius is doing. He says, "I've written something to the church, but Diophornes, who likes to put himself first." Does anybody's translation have the preeminence? Who likes to have the preeminence? Okay, it's simply a transliteration of this idea. He likes to be first, and that idea of having the preeminence meaning he places himself above. I don't want a show of hands because I don't want to embarrass anybody. But how many people here have been a member of a local congregation where you have a brother or a sister who has taken it upon themselves to act as a sort of a, I'm trying to think of a polite word to say what I've got to say. They want to have a control that is not given to them. They like to be able to to bless certain works. This one's okay. We'll do this, and then if something else is brought up, then they shut that down pretty quickly. Oftentimes, using the popular opinion of trying to shift popular opinion towards something or against something. I imagine everybody here has seen at least one person who's been like that. Okay, I have not yet seen anything like that here at Central. I'm so thankful we're not fighting some uphill battle against one person who feels that they need to have the preeminence. Oftentimes, it is a preacher. A preacher likes to bless a work, or he'll condemn a work. He'll make something happen. If he doesn't like it, it ain't going to happen because he has the preeminence and he has taken that for himself. Sometimes it is an elder. There's a plurality of elders, but there's a head elder. It's not what we find. Not what we find. But here's a man who has taken it upon himself to have the preeminence in that local area. And it has caused issues because what happens? He says, "I have written something to the church, but Diotrephes, I'll get it right, Diotrephes, who likes to put himself, does not acknowledge our authority." Think about this. There's this man who has taken it upon himself and he has taken so much authority for himself, and unfortunately that local congregation, that local area has allowed him to do that. Okay, that could have been shut down many times before this, but he has taken that authority, and unfortunately the congregation has allowed him to take that authority. So now he's gotten so bad, he's put himself so far ahead, so far above everybody else that he refuses to acknowledge the authority of the apostleship. Yes, sir. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Purse strings. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. 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 But what happens? What does that say about the character of someone when truth is spoken that they act as if they've been poked with a sharp stick? So think about the character of someone where truth offends. When truth offends, then our character has some defects, has some flaws that need to be changed. Hmm. Certainly, this kind of thing, because you never see somebody like that takes that preeminence and holds it by force. There's never a violent aspect of it. What has happened is men and women in the congregation who know better, and here's the thing, they know better, or they should know better, have allowed this situation to continue, have not rebuked such a one, because if there's someone like this, then this is a person who is causing division in the Lord's body. And what are we to do to someone who causes division in the Lord's body? We rebuke them. We strongly rebuke them. It says in the book of Proverbs, there are 7 things that the Lord hates, or 6 things that the Lord hates, yea, 7 are an abomination to Him. One of those is those who create division among brethren. And when you have someone who is taking that kind of power and authority upon themselves, that they would even reject the authority of an apostle of the Lord Jesus Christ, one who speaks divinely inspired by God, this is a man who has taken so much authority that he thinks himself to be on equal with the apostles and have that kind of authority. In John, well, I tell you, we're going to get to it here in a second. Okay, this is the position that this man has placed himself in, and that the congregation has allowed him to occupy. You've got to remember that he didn't do this in and of himself. You don't get to that position by yourself. Something else has to happen, and the congregation has bowed themselves to his will. All right, you've got to be careful about that. He says, "So if I come," here's John. John is unafraid. This is a man who has looked death in the eye. He has endured all manner of ill treatment by the world and the authority of this world against himself. He has come through with shining colors. He stands tall, and it still has that air of authority that has been given to him by Jesus Christ. And look what he says. He is unafraid. He says, "So if I come, I will bring up what he is doing, talking wicked nonsense against us." And not content with that, he refuses to welcome the brothers and also stops those who want to and puts them out of the church. This is a man who has he has been let free rein. No matter whatever he wants to do, he is doing. And the congregation is allowing this to happen. All right? Yeah, this is a Diotrephes church. This is the church of Diotrephes. Now, I imagine probably, and this is the sad thing, is he's probably justified this in his own mind somehow. Likely. I dare say he's not someone who says, "Ooh, I'm going to overthrow Christ. Ooh, I'm going to do this." What he's done is he is taken this position that he has, and he has justified it in his own mind. Maybe he feels that he's the only one that can truly determine whether someone is from God, who has been sent, who is perfect in the truth. Maybe he is placing qualifications on these people who are coming to the Lord's body. He's placing qualifications on them that they have to ascribe to that the Lord has not given. Okay? Whatever the problem is, it's a big problem, because not only will he not receive these people that Gaius is accepting, but those who want to. So it could be that Gaius is having a major issue with Diotrephes right now. Diotrephes is trying to put Gaius out of the church because Gaius wants to receive these brethren. This is a man who has no longer he will not rein himself in, and the congregation will not rein him in. Which leads me to believe that it's possible that this may be either a preacher or an elder, someone who has a position of authority, and maybe the brethren are afraid to say something against him because they've internalized that idea about do not speak don't speak ill of your brother, and receive an accusation against the elder. You can't just simply say something against an elder in the Lord's body. It's different for them, but it's still something to be done. So it tells me that it's likely someone who has a position of authority in the Lord's body, and people are unafraid. I don't know that. I'm saying just based on what I'm reading, this is what it seems like. These people are scared to say anything to this man. The idea that one man can put you out of the church? This guy's taken a lot of authority for himself that he does not have. Okay, all right. So this is what's happening. He says, when I come, there's going to be a reckoning. Now, knowing John is going to be one of those that's going to first, it's going to be with love and respect and honor. He's going to reason with Diotrephes first. But you know what's going to happen when this man, and I'm pretty sure when he refuses to bend to God's will, what it's going to be like. It's going to be unfortunate, but the leaven must be purged. Leaven must be purged. And here's this man who's really creating a problem for the church. So he says, this is what's happening with Diotrephes. This is the problem that we're having with him. However, verse 11, beloved, still speaking to Gaius, beloved, do not imitate evil, but imitate good. So what is he encouraging Gaius to do? Don't do what? Yeah, don't, as this man is working evil and saying evil things about us and doing all of these things, do not imitate him. Okay? Imitate what is good. And you know what's good because we've heard that you know what's good. We've heard with our own ears that you walk in the truth. See that you continue to walk in the truth. Don't, as we say, don't stoop to his level. Because you can imagine if Diotrephes felt strongly about something, he would probably say it in no uncertain terms, right? And, he would say, well, I'm just telling it like it is, but saying all manner of evil things. And John is encouraging Gaius, please don't imitate this. This is not what we imitate. We imitate what is good and what is decent, what is wholesome, what is profitable, right? All right. Whoever does good is from God. Whoever does evil has not seen God. This is not only a commendation for Gaius, but it's also a condemnation for Diotrephes, is it not? Okay? When you do good as you are doing good, Gaius, receiving the brethren, showing hospitality to the saints, you are doing good, and in doing good, what does it mean that Gaius has done? You're from God. Same thing with the brethren that you receive. When they do good, they're from God. But whoever does evil has not seen God. So what is he saying about Diotrephes? This man has not seen God. This man, it could be that, listen, I may be completely wrong. It could be that Diotrephes became a member of the Lord's church so that he may have been greedy for filthy lucre. One of the qualifications for an elder, right? Not greedy. Not one who seeks physical gain from being an elder in the Lord's body. Why do you think that when Paul was writing to Timothy that this would be one of the qualifications? But what's the problem? What's the problem? Yeah, absolutely, it can happen, and it has happened in the past. I've seen it happen. What is the problem when a person becomes an elder of the Lord's body who has a mind of greed for ill-gotten gain or filthy lucre, as some translations say? What's the problem with that? What's that? It's about gain, right? It's about physical gain. Certainly so. An elder is an example, are they not? Something that they're supposed to set an example that the church can follow, right? Okay. It certainly could lend itself to corruption. We look in the throughout the scriptures, we see where men who were put in a position of religious authority did so because of the ability to gain from it, right? We look at the sons of Eli, right? Then we look at the sons of Samuel, all right? We look at both of those. We look at the kings. We look at some of the We look at some of the prophets. Look at Balaam. What did he do? He was able to be bribed. They were trying to bribe him. Okay. We look at Judas. Judas had the power. He had the purse strings, right? It reminds me of the brother that you were talking about. Had the purse strings. The problem is when the wrong person holds the purse strings. What is that? Where's that temptation? Not that they would steal, but no, Judas did steal. He was a thief. I mean, he was an outright thief. But that the ability to control the purse strings means there's an ability to control the church. You know, well, I don't think we should support that. So I'm not going to write in. I'm going to bring my power to bear that we just won't support that. You know, I don't think we should pay that. I don't think we should do that. And unfortunately, if you have a weaker congregation, there it goes. Church goes off the rails. Yes, ma'am. Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right. And this is this kind of brings into sharp focus the idea that God wants us to do what He tells us to do because He truly has our best interest at heart. He truly wants what is best for us. And while, of course, like you said, you know, a lot of people, hey, it's a family. We love the family. One of the family members is in sin, you know, it could be that they're in sin and they still occupy a position of authority in the church, and they should not be there after that, you know, because they refuse to put that sin away. And what happens when, as the Lord said, when the leaven is not purged? The little leaven leaveneth the whole lump. And what happens over time? And we think, well, it's covered over. It's not that big of a deal. No one really talks about it anymore, but there it is. And what does that do? Boy, it continues to fester and fester and fester and fester. And then pretty soon, what do you have? Whether we like it or not, the church is going to suffer because of either the unwillingness or the inability of people to simply do what we have to do, no matter, emotionally. I certainly don't want to say goodbye to someone. I don't like to tell people goodbye, but sometimes we have to do that because if we don't, the Lord's body is going to be hurt. And when the Lord's body is hurt, who hurts? We do, and God does. The Lord is troubled when He looks down and He sees the church. It's split. He sees the church in turmoil. He wants us to have the same mind. He wants us to dwell peaceably with one another. I mean, He tells us to do things for a reason, and it's not simply so we can have a list of rules and regulations so that we can follow. It's because He wants the Lord's body to remain pure and remain strong. And it cannot remain strong when it's pitched against itself. Can't do it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm. Oh, wow. Uh, yeah. All right. Mm. Yeah. All right. And what they were trying to do is not going to be fruitful. So. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. They're not giving that authority. Yeah. Yeah. once again, God put a plan into place. He put positions of authority into place, and those positions of authority are for a particular person for a particular time. And what happens? What happens when we decide that what the Lord has put into place is not what we want? What eventually is going to happen? The Lord's body is going to suffer for it. It is. And we can close our eyes, we can cover our ears, and like a child, I don't see you. If I don't see you, I can't. It's not going to affect me if I can't hear or see you. So we close our eyes and we do this, and we talk real loud and think that it somehow will go away, and it's not going to go away. But there's what's happening. I mean, here we can see the problems that are occurring. It's gotten so bad that when John comes, I'm going to have to say something to him. Now, likely, John's not allowing this to continue on. He says that he will not receive my authority, so that tells us what? The things that John had been sending to him are being disregarded. John's not just going to let this go. He's likely been sending letters, personal epistles, and missives, people to him, but he won't even receive them. Okay, so this is a man who's turned his back. He is actively engaged against that present active indicative. This is an ongoing situation with Diotrephes. All right, and the only thing that can possibly bring it into it is when John confronts him personally. But he tells him, he says, "Do good, imitate good. When you imitate good, you've seen God. When you imitate bad, you've done bad. And when you do bad, you haven't seen God." And here it is in verse 12. Demetrius, here he gives him an example. Demetrius has received a good testimony from everyone and from the truth itself. So he contrasts that with Diotrephes with who? Demetrius. We have Demetrius and Diotrephes. Here's these two men, and one of them has what? A good reputation. He is one that walks in the truth. He's shown himself to walk in the truth. And then you have Diotrephes, who is not. Okay? He's not imitating. He's imitating evil. He's doing evil things. Okay? So Demetrius has received a good testimony. That's what we want, right? We want a good testimony. He's received a good testimony from who? Everyone. Everyone who knows him, or has had contact with him, who has been involved with him in any way, will give you a good testimony. This is a man who walks in the truth, as Gaius is in the truth. Continue to do good. He's received a good testimony from everyone and from the truth itself. We also add our testimony, and you know that our testimony is true. Of course, that would be without reproach, right? Beyond reproach. Verse 13, I had much to write to you, but I would rather not write with pen and ink. I hope to see you soon, and we will talk face to face. John again desiring that idea of fellowship with the brethren, to be with him, to abide with him, to speak face to face. I'll go ahead and tell you right now, if you ever call me on the phone, I'll talk to you on the phone. My wife can attest to this. I hate to talk on the phone. I do. Maybe when I was younger, I would sit there with a phone glued to my ear. Of course, now they've passed a law that you can't drive while you're talking on the phone anyway. So if you call me and you want to talk to me on the phone, I'll tell you, I'll talk with you. Not a problem. But you know what I really want to do more than anything else? I want to talk with you face to face. I want to sit down across the kitchen table. I want to sit next to you on the pew at a fellowship dinner, whatever it might be. Drink a cup of coffee. Just enjoy each other's company. And this is what John says. I write these letters, and I want you to receive my letters in the love and the spirit in which they are intended. But more than anything else, I want to sit with you and talk with you face to face. Why? Because it's going to bring John a great deal of love and joy to see this man whom he loves in the faith, whom he loves in the truth. The idea of getting sit and talk to him face to face, to look upon him. We are so spoiled today. We want to talk to somebody. What does it take? Right now, I could push a button and I could be on the phone with somebody living on the other side of the world. I want to write them something. Boom, 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 boom. I hit send, and pretty much they've received it. Now, whether they read it or not, that's up to them. But I could do that immediately. John, however, is living in the time in which he lived. You would write a letter, and it might take several weeks, if not longer, to get where it's supposed to go. The idea of talking face to face. I have to finish what I'm doing here. I have to accomplish the work that I've been sent to do here. Then maybe I will have an opportunity to come to you. Maybe. The Spirit might take me to another place. I might not yet get to come to talk to you. I may get done there and say, I want more than anything else to go see my friend Gaius. No. Now I need you over here. And this is the way the Spirit would move these men to do what was necessary to be accomplished. But it doesn't change the fact that John, more than anything else, that's what he desires. Now, with that in mind, can you imagine what it's going to be like when we see all of the beloved, all of the saints, from everywhere, all over throughout time, through the end of time, when we will all see each other, figuratively, we will see each other face to face, and we will spend time with each other in each other's presence for eternity. Just think about that for just a second. All of those saints who have fallen asleep in the faith, and we're going to get to spend eternity with them, spending joy beyond measure, getting to spend time singing songs of praise, gathered around the throne of God. And you know, even if John never got to see Gaius again, even if he never laid eyes on him in the flesh, he knows that because Gaius walked in the truth, that John's going to see him again. And it's going to be a reunion that transcends anything we can imagine. There's some people that have fallen asleep in the faith that I know who have died, who are faithful Christians, and I cannot wait to see them again. It's going to be so incredible. And that's what he's looking forward to. But in this case, he says, I hope I'm going to get to see you again. And in verse 15, he ends with this, peace be to you. You know, Gaius is undergoing a great deal right now because he's having to deal with a division in the Lord's body. And what is John asking for him? He's saying, I want you to know that I love you, and what I want for you is what? Peace. I want you to know peace. In spite of everything that you're going through, I want you to know what peace is. He says, peace be to you. The friends greet you. Greet the friends, each by name. And he ends it with that thought. Any questions? Any questions about what we talked about this afternoon? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I agree, and adding on to that, in contrast with that, we also not meet. I think sometimes we have a false sense of humility, and when I mean false, I'm not saying that it's undesired. I'm saying that many times we won't call someone out for the work that they've done. It's as if somehow if we say something that we're elevating them to a position that they shouldn't have. You know, well, I don't want to call them out by name. I don't want to embarrass them. I don't want that. You know, I don't want them to get a big head or an ego for having done it. John had no problem with it, did he? He wrote him. He called out Diotrephes for being a servant of evil at this particular point. Whether he was ever a servant of good or no, I don't know. But at this point, he's a servant of evil. He didn't hesitate to call him out for the sin that he was committing. But he also doesn't hesitate to call out Demetrius and Gaius for the good things that they did. So we need to we enlarge people's names. We celebrate them. You know, and I think that's a good thing to do. If somebody's done something good, let the congregation know about it. Let them know about it. Imagine Gaius may have been thinking, you know, I'm doing all this stuff. Not that he was doing it for commendation, but it sure is nice to have your actions justified and have them celebrated, especially by John. You know, everybody loves, you know, Paul, great apostle, author, writer, preacher, defender of the faith. Peter the same way, but there's something about John because of his humility, the humility that he had, and the fact that more than anything else, he wanted the brethren to love God and love each other more than anything else. I don't know, that makes him very special to me. I love reading John's works probably more than in the rest of them. That and Hebrews, those are the two, you know, John's stuff and Hebrews. If you read those, and you could not physically read anything else, you get a good sense about what the gospel of Christ is. I think you'd have it pretty much summed up. I'm not saying don't read the rest of it. I'm saying if you couldn't read the rest of it, you had those. All right. Anything else? Yes, ma'am. Mm-hmm. 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 Uh, mm-hmm. Yeah. 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 They'll disappear into the woodwork, and what they'll say is, well, we home churched for a little while because we couldn't find any place that fit our needs. They disappear for a little while, then all of a sudden they pop back up, and they're at a local congregation and doing the same thing. They get right back into that habit of defeating good and promoting evil. And what it takes, this is a secular saying, but it's just as equally true in the faith. All it takes for evil to flourish is for good men to do nothing. We don't have to promote it. We just simply sit back and watch it happen. Well, I don't want to say anything. It's not my place to say anything. I'm not an elder. I'm not a preacher. I'm not a. Instead of saying, it's confronting evil for where it is. And see, if had that been happening the entire time with Diotrephes, it likely would have never gotten to where it was. But you also have a man who refused to even hear the Apostle John as he would give commandment. You have a man who is self-willed. Okay, he had determined that his will would be done, and he had the preeminence. He desired that preeminence, and unfortunately, they were giving him the preeminence. So he had authority that he was not blessed with. Yeah, as soon as it happens, you don't allow it to fester. As soon as the first thing is said, and you know what? It's easier to do it when it first starts because the words are a whole lot calmer. The words are a whole lot more loving when it's early. Because, okay, there's a mistake here. Let's talk about this. But then when it gets further and further, the words get harsher and harsher and harsher and more combative until pretty soon it's a civil war. And, just look at the physical example. After the Civil War, entire cities were gone. Entire communities were destroyed. Well, that's what happens in the Lord's body when evil is not confronted, when it rears its head. Purge the leaven. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah. But what do? Say what we have to say. Like I said, we can do it in love. I mean, it doesn't mean we just jump wholeheartedly. Many times it's a miscommunication, it's a misunderstanding, an ignorance, and then, but unfortunately, if that's not confronted, it becomes what it shouldn't be in the first place. All right, anything else? Okay. Next week we're going to start something else. Okay, so be prepared. All right. We're going to have a song of invitation. What's our song of invitation? 5:17. So we're going to have a song of invitation. If there's anyone here, let me ask real quickly: is there anyone? I think everybody was here for anybody need communion? Okay, so we don't need communion, but we're going to have a song of invitation. If there's anyone here who needs to respond to the Lord's invitation, prayers for yourself, prayers for your soul, whatever it might be, make sure your soul is like Gaius' soul, healthy. Okay, pray for health, soul health. Come, always standing while we sing. Not let the word depart